Okay. See, I don't have a presentation, so anytime she says like this, I can just walk out. So anyway, I was drafted into just talk about some thoughts. The gentleman before me actually led me to that, because in the early 90s, you know, when IT was introduced, when computers were introduced, everybody was so afraid of computers. They said, if this starts doing my work, mera kaam ka kya hoga? But today, you know, no government office is there without a computer. Actually, the screens have gotten so big that you got to, you know, they hide behind that screen. So, you know, the point is computerization and IT has become an integral part of our society and our living. In fact, the best example I would give is the whole visa process. I don't know how many of you have gone through it, but the e-visa process is so good that none of my foreign colleagues now have an excuse for not showing up in India on a short notice. In fact, there was a guy from New Zealand. I asked him to come for a meeting. He said, oh, well, I don't have an Indian visa. I said, you will get an Indian visa in 12 hours, so you better be there in the next flight. And he did get his visa 3 hours before he boarded the flight. So that's the best example of computerization. Why did I bring it up? GIS and geospatial technology is at the same nascent stage where IT was, let's say, 2 decades ago. And the applications, I mean, from what the experts talked about, Mr. Meena talked about land and cadastre. That is such an integral part of national development. It is not only about farmers, of course, that is a very important part. It's not only about a right of ownership, but also about building the nation's infrastructure. You know, land acquisition has been such a major problem. But without proper, you know, cadastral system, acquisition of land becomes an issue, and that has ramifications for building the nation. So he gave an example. He talked about forestry. We talked about transport, logistics, and so on. So the geospatial industry is at a nascent stage, but it is a very, very important component of what Modi ji's vision is about digitizing India, digital India. Digital India is such a big catch-all word, phrase actually. It includes smart cities, it includes infrastructure development, high-speed rail, agriculture, and so on and so forth. And what digital means is most people think that it's about information technology. I would say information technology, but combined with geospatially aware information, which means coordinate aware information. That is very, very critical, because if you take a smart city, to me smart means you do more with less, okay? You are able to service more people with less resources. You are able to service you know, the bigger part of the society by utilizing less fuel, by utilizing less assets, and so on and so forth. So when you want a smart infrastructure, you have to be aware, you got to be aware spatially in order to be able to service. So for example, you know, if you have a police force and you don't know where the crimes are happening, but they are, you know, while the crimes are happening, they are sitting in one part of the city, whereas the crime is happening in the other part of the city, that's not a good use of your police force. Similarly, if there is a power outage, you need to be able to zero in on where the power outage has occurred and be able to fix it. If you are doing solid or liquid waste transportation and processing, you know, it's very important to know where the trucks are, whether they have collected the waste from the bins, and so on. So the geospatial component is so important. I don't believe that we can have a smart infrastructure or a smart city or a smart nation without geospatial technology. But unfortunately, what I see is that you know, the whole concept of digitization has been kind of usurped by our bigger cousins, the IT guys, you know, the IBMs of the world, the Ciscos. Nothing against them, you know, we need that, but I think we need the people in this room to make people aware, other people aware, that geospatial technology plays a very, very significant role. And I dare say that we don't have 2 decades to bring it in the mainstream. We need to do it much sooner. This is the group that's going to make it happen. I know that there is a policy panel next, and I would definitely urge that, you know, we need to have what I call as business-friendly policies. We don't need policies that will hamper business, but will enhance business. I'll give you an example. I have this phone, more ubiquitously available, and that can happen only if the government supports. Today, I'm able to import all these devices because the TRI has set aside rulings that you can import a cell phone with a GPS, right, all day long. Nobody questions. Similarly, we need to have the ability to import GPS with a cell phone in it, right, and so on and so forth. Similarly, for things like machine control, when you have to build smart infrastructure, and so on. And the policy should take into account the fact that we need information to be ubiquitously available because the private industry can build applications. Mr. Verma's son Rohan talked about how they have built applications over a common platform. We need to be able to have private industry as the engine of growth, which means more friendly policies and less restrictive policies and more open, more openness for private industry to thrive. One of the fundamental aspects of this is obviously having a common geodetic framework. That is very important because we all have to speak the same language. We all have to work off of the same infrastructure. So definitely that will help the National Geospatial Framework. So these are some of the thoughts that I wanted to share. Am I on time or did I exceed? Okay, great. And if you have questions, comments, etc., maybe we can take it offline because the panel is overdue right now. Thanks.